Hi everyone, I'm Karen Sydney and welcome to today's interview in a Woman Who Creates series. My purpose behind these interviews is to inspire women to go out and create the life they want for themselves and to show them that there are infinite possibilities and opportunities in our world. Today's guest is Amanda Blesing from Melbourne, Australia. So welcome, Amanda. It is such a privilege to have you with us here today to share your story. As a former CEO, entrepreneur, speaker and executive coach, Amanda truly understands the tightrope that women walk on their pathway to the top. Amanda is an expert on all things self-promotional for executive women. Her blogs go viral, her mentoring programs and leadership retreats get rave reviews, and her one-on-one coaching clients frequently sign up for more as they approach career goals more easily, with many winning awards for the first time in their careers. Amanda is one of Australia's newest thinkers and speakers on feminine ambition. She is the creator of Ambition Revolution program, which helps women to step up, speak out, and take charge. Amanda draws on her vast experience in many different areas, having started her working life in the fitness industry and living for 3 years in Papua New Guinea. Today, she will share with us some of the lessons learned from her own career and a couple of self-promotional lessons we might all use. So, Amanda, what made you start your business and why did you choose to work with executive women?
Karen, fantastic to be here and lovely to be speaking to you for your listeners. My own career journey, as you highlighted a little bit of there, was really lots of spills and thrills, and it wasn't an upward trajectory like you might imagine or like people may imagine. In actual fact, I think that we all have a notion that a career journey is like a trajectory that goes like this, when in actual fact it's more like a tangled ball of wool and progress. And I think progress, not perfect, is a really good mantra to hold. So my own journey came up through the ranks of the association world. So you heard that I started my career in the fitness industry. And from there, I decided I'm going to work for the peak body for fitness instructors here in Australia. So that's what I did. Started in the fitness industry and then segued into the peak body or association sector. So from there, my career stayed in the association sector with my last role as CEO of an organisation called SOCAP Australia, the Society for Consumer Affairs Professionals in Business in Australia. Very professional, very proper sounding, and yes, the members were from consumer affairs and fair trading departments. Fantastic group of people, which brings me to the why. When I was working as the CEO of SOCAP Australia, one of the things that really stood out to me was that people who work in consumer affairs and complaints really truly believe in their why. They are so connected to a deep sense of purpose. Now, my career had been through the association sector, and I'd worked in different industries, the Law Institute, Insurance Institute, the Global Foundation, Consumer Affairs. I'd worked at the fitness industry. I'd worked in lots of different industries, but the theme was association sector, and I was not passionate about that. So I decided at the end of about 6 years with these amazing people who were deeply committed to consumer outcomes and better outcomes for consumers, deeply committed, that I wanted some of that. So that was in actual fact one of the first reasons why I went, actually, I'm going to go do something that I really believe in and I'm passionate about because I want to feel like my members when they go to work every day. There's another part to the story too. So from there, it was like, well, what can I do? And I realised that I'd had a strong interest in feminine empowerment and gender equity throughout my life. I'd studied gender studies at uni. I'd read Susan Faluti's Backlash. I'd read all the books back in the 90s, but I'd perhaps put that on the back burner while I pursued a professional career. And I thought maybe it's time to look at that stuff because I was seeing some worrying trends. I would call for papers for our journal, for our conferences, and 10 men would put their hand up and volunteer, and only one woman, and typically she'd be a lawyer who needed to do it for business development purposes. I would call for award nominations, and the women were all, the women in the industry were running around nominating their junior staff, which is the right thing to do and great for the association or the peak body because we needed younger members coming through. But then they would tell me that they were too worn out, or maybe that was code for I've got imposter syndrome and I don't think I'm good enough, so that they were too worn out to write their own nomination. What perhaps they didn't know was that I was looking at all the nominations from the men and the women, and frequently the men told me that they got the comms department or the marketing department help them write theirs. So the women were sort of getting it a little bit skewed anyway. They didn't have to write their own. They could have asked for help, and someone might have helped them write the nomination. So this was a common thread and a worrying trend. And that's when I just had that aha moment. It all came together and I thought, I can do this. I've produced magazines, I've run awards, I've briefed more speakers than most people have had hot dinners. I self-promoted like you wouldn't believe. So I thought, I can do this. I can help women do this. And so that's why I do what I do.
Oh, that's great, because as you say, there is so many women that do need that help, and they do look at themselves. They're very easily to judge themselves and hold themselves back and think that they're not good enough or they're too busy. And that's the thing with women. We wear so many different hats, but we are very capable and as you say, very particular and do a good job. And so it's getting that mindset that and belief in yourself, isn't it? But you told me you didn't start out that way, that you were initially incredibly shy and self-conscious. So self-promotion hasn't come easy to you, but you realised that, that it was necessary, but you had to learn the hard way along the way. So how did you overcome this yourself to be able to have this confidence to do all this?
I'm a really big believer in the growth mindset. I'm not sure if your listeners or you, Karen, have heard of Carol Dweck and her work around mindset. And I think when it comes to confidence and self-promotion, we need to adopt a growth mindset. So let me share a little bit. So a growth mindset is where you believe your capabilities, your IQ, your abilities can grow and expand in some way. But most of us, in actual fact, have what we call a fixed mindset. We sort of think, oh, I'm good at this or I'm not good at it. We don't think that we can change and become good at it. So I think adopting a growth mindset is a really, really important part of anyone's journey about whatever you're doing, whether you're trying something new, a new job, whether you're starting a new business, whether you're just, new piece of software you need to learn, something like that. Just yesterday, I had to tackle a new piece of software and I was grumbling internally, mentally going, this is too hard, I can't do it. And then my husband reminded me that in actual fact, I'm really quite good with learning new softwares. And why was I grumbling? Why didn't I just get on with the business and do it and learn? And it was fantastic because I just got on with the business and I puzzled it out, and now I'm far more familiar, and I sent out the email newsletter with the new software and I'm just so much better off. So I guess that adopting a growth mindset is really important, and I think for some reason or other, women or young women are socialised around perfectionism. So we're either good at something or we're not. We've got to be perfect. We've got to be better, rather than remembering we need to, put our hand up before we feel ready. It's okay to colour outside the lines. That work is not school. You don't get rewarded for being good. You actually have to do great work and then tell people about it, because everyone is the protagonist in their own movie. No one's actually really looking out for you and your progress, no matter how much you want them to. No one cares as much about their career as you do. And as Avril Henry says, you need to do something about that.
Yes, because it's a realising that, our life is our own responsibility. And we have to step up and do it. Yes, no one else is going to come along and say, oh, you should do this or you should do that. And this perfectionism is just like excuses and put in the way, because the only way, like you found out yesterday as well, and what we do when we want to do something new, is you just have to start, and you've got to go through the steps in that logical way and just start doing something. And yes, you can learn it when you stop that. And anything new requires learning. So you know, it's no different with anything, is it? So there's steps and procedures you go through, and you just got to start and do it.
So there's a particular, I think there's some provisos with the growth mindset, and I really like them. So the provisos with the growth mindset are: you need to be prepared to make mistakes. Okay. Yep. Okay. Well, I think we know that, but if you're a, recovering perfectionist, that can be quite challenging. So you need to be prepared. You are going to make mistakes. Whatever you're going to do, you're going to make mistakes. You need to be prepared that you're going to be uncomfortable. Yeah. Oh my gosh. The comfort zone is really comfortable, but it's out there that the magic happens. And we need to be prepared that we're going to have to do the work. When it comes to self-promotion, I think there's one more proviso, and that is you need to be prepared to get out of your own way. And that's that small voice on your shoulder, that socialized voice that says, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's not good manners. Or what would the neighbors think? Those socialized things that we have in the background, the scripts that keep us safe, keep us playing small. So when it comes to self-promotion, having a growth mindset, we need to be prepared to get out of our own way.
And it is that getting out of that comfort zone, because, as I say, anything new isn't easy for anybody. You have to be able to push yourself out of that comfort zone and do the necessary work. And it is hard work, and it does take time and effort, and, as you say, and mistakes. And it's fine to make mistakes. I mean, I always say you learn the most and you grow the most in those challenging times. When you get it, if you go out there and just keep doing every day what you know how to do, well, you're never going to learn any more. You have to have challenges, and it's the only way that you can grow and learn new stuff. And I think, when you're pushed into that corner that you've got to do it and you want to do it, and it's having that passion, isn't it, that you really want to do it, that you will keep pushing through these uncomfortable things. And I think when you get a certain way through, once you've started doing that, isn't it, you start seeing, oh, I actually can do this, and if I keep pushing and doing something each day, I am going to get there. And like, it makes you feel so good, doesn't it? Like, you don't ever get that adrenaline rush and feel great about yourself either if you don't do new things and push through challenges. And I think that's really important. I know just a fearful thing for me was I done it for someone. They were having challenges and they wanted me to do a challenge this day, and I was actually speaking in Auckland, and I looked out the window and I could see the sky tear there staring at me all the time, and I'm like, oh, don't you look at me, because I'm not going up there. That's one thing I'm not doing. But that's what I ended up doing, and walking around there outside, it was like you could just look down and see all of Auckland. And that was something that was really fearful. But again, it taught me that how important it is to do that, because I felt so good after it was over that I'd actually done something that I was really scared of. And I don't like being up high like that. And it was, it was really high. I don't know how many feet now, but yeah, it was very high, and you're out in the open air just walking around the outside of this extremely tall building. But it did reinforce to me again how important it is, because you get that feeling. I was like, wow, yes, I've done that was so fearful to me, and now it's made me. And you've got that to relate to too when the next challenge comes, don't you? You can go, oh well, if I was able to do that, I can certainly do this.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if it was Tim Ferriss. You might remember he wrote 4 Hour Body, 4 Hour Work Week, 4 Hour Chef. He wrote a bunch of books, very, very famous. But I'm pretty sure he says, do one thing that scares you every day. Do one thing that scares you every day, one thing that gets you out of your comfort zone every day, because that comfort zone is so comfortable.
And just look what that would do for you in a year.
Yes.
So that's like 365 things you've done that scares you, and look how much you'd grow in that year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from what I was observing, working with these, amazing, talented executive women in industry, it's tough. It's a tough gig inside a corporate or inside a government department. It's a tough gig, you know, a lot of grind, a lot of, you know, hard work and politics. It's a tough gig. But it was when they, you know, they'd say no to this speaking, you know, I was offering these opportunities and they might have said no, and then I might, because I believe passionately that they should be doing these things and putting themselves out there. So I'd entice them into speaking opportunities, entice them into writing articles for our journals, for nominating for awards. And the sense of achievement when they did do those things was quite amazing, and the real shift for them personally and professionally as a result of tackling these different things that were showcasing them in their expertise really outside of their comfort zone, you know, inviting criticism and judgment in a way, but that their sense of achievement was so much greater, I think, because they had come such a long way. Yeah.
I know, and it's good to have that growth and be able to reflect back on how far you have come, and that helps you grow even more. Now, you took a career break when you went to Papua New Guinea. So what made you decide to go there, and what did you learn from that experience?
It's really funny you should ask, and the topics come up of like quite a bit, so I'm not sure whether it's about being ready to talk about it, but I did. I took a career break and I went to Papua New Guinea. I followed a man, you know, here I am, the ultimate feminist, and I gave up my job and I followed someone overseas. I have to say, interestingly, I was talking with a woman the other day, and she is the major breadwinner in her family unit, and she is now working overseas, and her husband followed her. And he says he's a member of that Lucky Bastards Club, which I think is hilarious. Whereas I didn't feel like that. I felt like I'd given up a lot. And so when I came back to Australia, so it was a fantastic time, like fantastic opportunity, really well outside of my comfort zone. Everything I did every day was outside of the comfort zone, because Papua New Guinea is quite an unrestful place and challenging for women, Papua New Guinean nationals as well as expatriate women. It can be quite a challenging place with a really high rape rate, and security is a huge issue. So went there, had an amazing time, did all sorts of interesting things, flew around in helicopters, you know, went diving, learned to dive, did amazing things, trekked through the wilderness, climbed Mount Willam. Once again, did lots of amazing things. But when I came back to Australia, what it meant though was that I had a 3-year hiatus in my own career. In hindsight, I should have just taken a holiday. I didn't do that. But I think, Karen, you and I have talked a little bit previously about out of the ashes rises the phoenix. And I don't think I'd be where I am today if I hadn't taken a career break. Because what it meant was when I came back to Australia was that I came back and went, oh my gosh, I'd better hustle. I have lost ground to make up for. And that taught me a whole heap of new career management skills. You know, taught me and made it that the imperative was greater for me to fast track. So, and help me reach a little bit further forward than I would have necessarily. For example, you know, this is many years ago, I employed a marketing expert to help me, an advertising expert to help me create a piece of content for a job interview. I mean, it was my ideas, but I employed them to help me pull it together. So I was doing all these sorts of outrageous things well before they were quite fashionable. And in hindsight, they weren't outrageous. It was just at the time I thought perhaps they were. So yes, out of the ashes rises the phoenix. I think that is something, if you want to get out of your comfort zone, sometimes doing something really radical and really different will really help you.
And look what that's done for your career now, and how valuable you are to other women and helping them in their careers. So what you've been through, and you do, and I think to be a great coach and be able to help more, you have to have had lots of life experiences and done different things, and you have to walk your talk. Like, you have to have pushed yourself out of your own comfort zone and felt that fear and just done it and done all those things to be able to help other people do that. Because like when you're a coach, you can't just let them away with things. Like,
Yeah.
you have to be able to be that force behind them and make them answerable to you and accountable for them to be able to grow. So I think, you know, what you've done, you have to have had those experiences yourself and actually lived it, don't you, to be able to deliver more to your clients.
Yeah, it certainly has helped. It gives me, I don't myself have children, but it does give me some sense of what it's like to have a career break and be really nervous about your future and whether you're employable again after a gap. It helps me understand, you know, my experience now as a more mature woman really helps me understand many of my clients, what they're going through as more mature women in the workforce, and feeling that age bias is coming into play. With, you know, they've got younger managers who are perhaps dismissing their contribution or undermining them because they're more mature. So I think experience is for a coach is pretty important, because it helps you have empathy and gives you perspective.
Because that is a big one for women that have had that career break when they have had their children, and they might have been a few years out of the workplace. And it is a very scary place to go back out there again. And so, yes, as you say, you've got that empathy from having that career break yourself. So, you know, you say that your mission is to help women to play a much bigger game. So how do you go about that when they come to you for the coaching?
So I run a range of options. I help women, you know, with their corporate careers. I also help women with that, if they are just exiting a corporate career and they're perhaps setting up their own consultancy. I help them, you know, get that self-promotion piece going, because you've just constantly got to be flying the flag for brand you and selling your thought leadership, as you would know, Karen. You've got to constantly be doing it, and I help them do that. So, because managing a corporate career is very different to managing a consultant career. And I also help young or new CEOs, and that's in actual fact some of my favourite work, working with new, perhaps younger female CEOs in this wonderful era of, you know, feminine empowerment and women really being given opportunities to lead. Does that mean that they come, you know, step into a role and can automatically manage everything? No, the smart woman works with a coach who helps them and guides them through that experience. Maybe they're reporting to a board for the first time ever. Maybe they've got other stakeholders they need to manage, but they also need a sounding board outside of the organisation where they can, you know, share their fears and concerns, and it won't get back to the rest of the organisation or their key staff. So I guess they're the sorts of women I really help. There's another aspect to what I do, and that's the pointy end, the icing on the cake. And it's after someone's been working with me for a while, then we look at what opportunities there are, such as awards, boards, and other accolades, where they can really start to shine. One of the processes I teach, and I'm happy to share this because I think your clients will just love it, and that's the Friday Achievement Formula. So every Friday from now until the end of eternity, and yes, I'm exaggerating, but until you start thinking like this, sit down and, you know, grab a notebook and start journaling. And I suggest that what you do is articulate something you've achieved this week, just one thing, personal or professional. If it's in a professional context, that's great. If it's about your career, so articulate something you achieved this week. Then, can you quantify it? Now, what do I mean by quantify it? Can you quantify the business benefit or other benefit? Was it a percentage of time saved? Was it a dollar value? So, for example, you might have, one of my clients discovered one, you know, at a particular piece. She works in mining. She discovered through her work that this untapped potential that was worth more than 500 million to her employer. So that looked really good in her achievement folder. That was a really big one. But that's huge. It's really big. But maybe you won a new client and that was a $10,000 client, and estimated, you know, over 5 years that $10,000 a year, that's you know, $50,000. So you quantify your achievement. If you can't quantify it, then qualify it. Did someone else say it was really good? So collect that evidence. Did it get featured in the press? Collect that evidence. So I think we women need a little bit of confidence boosting, and collecting evidence, quantifying and or qualifying, I think is really helpful. The third piece to the formula, so identify your achievement, quantify, qualify. And the third piece is articulate your expertise. So why you? What enabled you to be able to deliver on that project? So I can imagine at the end of a year or end of 6 months, if you look through your achievement folder and every Friday you've done this, all of a sudden you've got this amazing catalogue. It's like a brag-a-log of, oh my gosh, look what I have achieved. Most of us have what we call a really strong negativity bias. We'll remember all the negative stuff that people said. We might have achieved all those things, but what we've remembered is what someone said to us in the corridor, or that thing that failed, or the thing that didn't go as well as you expected. What we need, I think, is this lovely achievement folder full of great, your Friday formula, so that we just check in those down moments. Actually, I'm not as bad as all that, and actually, I'm pretty damn good. I've got tickets on myself, and I'm proud. I'm a legend in my own lunchbox, and that's okay.
I mean, it is good to have something like that to go back and look on it, and as you say, after 6 months, because it is actually very easy to forget all those things unless you're actually talking to someone or something brings it out. You do forget all those things you've done along the way, because lots of times too, it's very easy when it's something you can do. You don't put that same value on it unless you're going through that formula, like you're saying, you go through and put the value on it, because you just think, oh, it's nothing, I just done it. But that's it's not true. Could someone else do it? And what value?
And that's exactly right, Karen. I think that's a really important point, and that comes back to one of the other things I teach my clients is how to accept compliments. Because most of the women that I've worked with, and I used to do it myself, I can hear this. I can hear my own mental scripts. So when if I was to pay you a compliment, Karen, if you hadn't done some work on this, you might actually say, oh, it was nothing, I was just doing my job. In actual fact, the whole team was involved. And did you see the project nearly fell over in February, but I got there in the end. And so that's just downplayed your whole contribution. Someone paid you a compliment. Just say thank you.
Yes, that's the best thing, isn't it? Learn to say thank you, and that is uncomfortable for the beginning. But if you just say nothing more, just start doing that, and it becomes comfortable, because that's all you need to say is thank you, and then just carry on and allow it, because it's very easy to say that when someone's paying you, oh, it was nothing, that's just what I do every day, it's no big deal. But it is to them, they're paying you a compliment, they've recognised that the job you've done was worth that compliment. And so that thank you is just the best way to start taking compliments, and you've got to force yourself to say it and just start doing it, because and yes, as I say, that makes you feel uncomfortable even saying it, but you get better at it.
That's right, because we've got a growth mindset, so we know that even though it feels uncomfortable, we just need to say thank you a few more times and it becomes easier. I think one of the other things that women will do is we'll say, initially, so we've got over the discomfort, we start to say thank you, and then we'll say thank you. Oh, and you're good too.
Exactly.
No, don't do that. Just say thank you and let it sit. And then you might introduce as a new topic, oh, that was interesting what you did. I'd like to hear more, and fantastic work. Don't deflect the compliment and bounce it back at them, because you will feel uncomfortable when you first start learning to say thank you.
Yes, you do. I can remember myself, because I was very bad at it, taking compliments several years back, and that was what I made myself start doing, and so I know, yes, it was uncomfortable, but you just got to stand there and say nothing more other than thank you, and just, as you say, let it just sit. So, Amanda, what is the best way for people to contact you if they would like to speak with you more about this, and about they might be interested in having coaching or just asking you some questions? So how would they go about that?
Fantastic. I actually do work with quite a few, I have worked with quite a few New Zealand women. So the best way is I'm a LinkedIn ninja. So because I work in that professional space, around career, LinkedIn is a really good tool for that. And if you're not on LinkedIn, then you're probably missing the boat if you've got a corporate career. I do understand that there's some situations where people are worried about being cyber stalked, etc. And there are some roles where that is a consideration. But there's always ways around it. So find me on LinkedIn or find me on my website, www.amandablesing.com. And that's the best way to get in touch.
Okay. And so what do you do yourself to keep yourself motivated and inspired? And do you have certain mantras or quotes you might live by, or you say for your like your Friday formula? I mean, I thought that was brilliant. So is that something you do for yourself and those kind of things?
Absolutely. So the thing I absolutely live by, and this has been a game changer for me, and I know that, Oprah talks about it, Marie Folio talks about it. It's been an absolute game changer for me. I've been doing it for years now, and it's the gratitude meditations in the morning. And in the evening, morning and evening. So it goes like this. Every morning you wake up and you find 5 things in your life that you can feel grateful for. So the first thing you do before coffee, lying in bed thinking, I don't want to get out of bed, reframe that and go, I feel grateful that I get this few moments in bed before I have to get out. And then think, I feel grateful because I've got a loving husband, or whatever your scenario is. Even if the kids are bouncing on the bed and annoying you, I feel grateful that I've got these 2 healthy, happy kids. So find 5 things in your life you can feel grateful for, and don't just name them mentally. Actually feel a sensation of gratitude. Let that sensation wash through your body and brain. Right? And that's a great way to start the day. Starts you off on a really good positive note. A little bit of neuroplasticity there, changes the brain, gets you firing in a positive way. What we need to do at the end of the day is, instead of ruminating on everything that didn't go well, or numbing your brain with mindless reruns of Jane the Virgin or whatever is your Netflix show of choice, then at the end of the day, write down 5 things you did well. You don't have to go through the quantification and the getting the evidence and articulating your expertise unless you really want it. Just write down 5 things you did well. And I don't even mind if one of those things could be, it might be, I didn't yell at the kids today. Yay. I mean, that's good. That's fantastic. You deserve a pat on the back. Or, I only drank 1 glass of wine. I actually wanted 2, but I only drank 1. Like, acknowledge achievement. So 5 things in the morning that you're grateful for, and 5 wins in the evening. And that's my game changer. That's an absolute must.
Oh, awesome advice. Yes, no, that it is great. Gratitude certainly changes things, and that waking up and looking at it and acknowledging it, because you can go through the day and not even appreciate all the wonderful things that are around us. So just taking that few minutes and really thinking about it, because we do have a lot to be grateful for. Like us in New Zealand, we've got a beautiful country here. In Australia, equally, you do as well, and there's just so many things that we're surrounded with every day to be grateful for. So that's great advice. So before we wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted to add, or is that
I think that's fine. I think, you've covered lots today, Karen. You've covered lots, and I think we've got some really practical, I was able to share some practical ideas. I hope your listeners really, get something out of that.
I've no doubt they will. So I thank you, Amanda, for sharing your story with us today. And I so know that it will inspire many other women to make a decision to take some action, to get the confidence and belief to create what it is they would like to do, to, as you say, step up at any age, speak out more and take charge. So have a great day, everyone, and thank you for listening. Now, please, can you share this interview with your friends? As I said, my mission is to help as many women as I can to create the life that they want. So bye for now from Amanda and myself.